All right. Back again for another episode of the Eh-Soteric Archives. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Been getting lots of engagement from people, new listeners and stuff lately. So yeah, thanks everyone. It's been really great. We're gonna keep on rolling here with another fun topic. Yeah, sticking our tinfoil hats on for this one.
Yeah, I was gonna wear mine, but my head's shiny enough.
Yeah.
As is our guest today.
Yeah. So yeah, that being said, we got a special guest. I'll let Mike kick this one off because
sure. Yeah. So today we have with us one of our listeners who also happens to be my brother. He's Rick from Ontario. We'll call him for now. You can expand on that if you choose to during the podcast. But a little background info on Rick. I've known him for a long time, his whole life. And I think it was around 10 or 11, maybe even a little bit before that, my brother was involved in a series of weather events while on lakes and fishing and things like that led him to be severely petrified of, but also obsessed with the weather and everything about it. And although I think it'd be best to describe you as an amateur meteorologist, but I don't think that does you enough cred because you know a lot about everything. And today we're going to talk about something you and I have spoken about for the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
We'll share some screenshots from some of those talks and see where it takes us. But I don't know if you want to intro what you want to talk about, Rick, and what today's topic will be.
Yeah, for sure. Well, just a little bit of background on, what got me so into weather. It actually started at the age of 5 on Lake Rosso, fishing with my dad, and just caught like a 4-pound bass. Looking back, it was probably only 2, but he told me it was 4, and I took his word for it. But shortly thereafter, we were in this little bay, just start hearing crashing and banging, and we were in just a little tin boat, 9.9 engine motor, trying to make our way back to our launching point, and we didn't make it. We had to crash the boat. So I was basically 5 years old on an island, sitting next to my dad, crying for my mom, sitting on a tackle box while like lightning and thunder was crashing all around us. So it was pretty crazy and traumatic at 5 years old. But my dad, being the guy he is, was nice enough to give me those kind of experiences many times over. Been stuck out on Lake Ontario, Lake Joseph. And that was back in the days again. I'm not going to age myself, but at that age, like there was no internet. There was no easy access to data. So your weather source was either the newspaper report in the morning, just showing kind of what the expected weather of the day was. Radio alerts would come on for like extreme weather, but you had no real way to track storms and do anything like that. So we were just caught in multiple storms. And that's what led me to, when CNN, the Weather Network launched in the late 80s, early 90s, it was like, weather all the time. I can make sure I never get caught out in that lake again with my dad. And then it evolved from there to, internet and radar being readily available. And then to the phone, I can check the radar anytime, anywhere, anytime. And I'm obsessed with it. So I check the radar at least 3 times a day, locally and across Canada, just seeing what's popping up. And I also do check space weather as well. We can get into that and maybe dive into that a little bit later as well. But I check the space weather once a day as well. And really that driving factor was just, the fear that my father put into me of not being prepared of what may be coming your way. So that's a little background there.
And because you were so obsessed with it, I never had to be, because any trip we've ever been on, I've always got the text or the update. I think even before cell phones, it would be a phone call the couple nights before with you telling me the weather forecast for the time we're there.
Your own personal weather network.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I was going to say, I wasn't someone, like, I always paid attention to the weather, right? But not the way you did because of your obsession with it. You and I we're used to be very physically close, right? We're not anymore, but.
Well, if I knew, you knew, right?
Yeah. So the last I didn't pay attention to it and moved far away from it and didn't really pay attention to it here until about 5 or 6 years ago when I noticed some stuff, at least what I seem to notice, started to change. Yeah. And that's I think what we'll talk about today.
Yeah, and that's what we shared as well. So a little bit more into, I think, what led to even our discussion around today's topic is due to my obsession with the weather, checking the radar, whether it's raining or not, like just habitually, I've seen some really weird stuff on radar. And then I'd be like, Mike, check this screenshot out of what I'm seeing. Like, this is crazy. Have you seen anything like this? And um, so, yeah, it got us into topics of, weather modification, what's going on, and is this a thing, and things like that. So that is going to be one of the topics that we dive in today.
Yeah. And I think for me it started when I worked a lot indoors and around 2020 I started working outside a lot almost all the time and noticed the sky above us changing.
Yeah. It was
Um,
definitely it was a smoke break thing for me. It was every time I'd go out for a smoke break, I'd look up and you just don't the sky looks different than it did when I was a kid. And it's not that I was even super like cognizant of it when I was a child or looking. But that being said, my grandfather is a meteorologist and was a pilot and stuff. So he worked for NORAD and so I have been exposed to that, but it was never really, you have the basic kind of
yeah.
scientific level of it. And then but yeah, like the changes just they don't match what's supposed to be happening out there at
No,
all. And
no.
I think it's kind of crazy to even deny that there is changes at this point. I don't, you know.
Well, I think
Uh,
on that point, so fact is, this is not a conspiracy theory. Weather modification is a real thing.
Right.
yeah.
Um, well documented. Project Popeye in Vietnam, they used that early experimentation to extend the monsoon season, slow down, the supply chain, and help win the. Not that anyone wins war, but fight the battle over there. So used it as early as then. Volkswagen's invested in these hail cannons in Mexico to change the weather there to avoid from hail, and insurance purposes, wrecking their brand new cars coming out of the factory. Um, Used in multiple different places for sure and examples. And there's actually a company right now in the US called Rainmaker, which they specialize in cloud seeding, which is a thing where you put silver iodide in the clouds and it freezes the condensation and the water in those clouds. And if it's warmer below, it comes down as rain. If it's colder below, it comes down as snow. And again, but this is very localized stuff.
Yeah,
They
that's
monitor
different.
these
Yeah.
clouds that have potential and vapor that wouldn't normally rain, but they almost give it a little bump to
Hmm.
help with agriculture in the Western U.S. So they use it very locally to help with the production of water in places that need water, and that does exist today. It's well documented. Anyone can check it out. Rainmaker as a company, and they're currently functioning in the U.S. right now. So that is a weather modification technology for sure. But I think there's some other things that are out there of what else is going on, right? I think there's also good documentation out there that if the US military was looking into weather modification, back in the 40s, how far has that technology advanced over the years?
For
Yeah.
sure. For sure. Well, and it's not I think too like the cloud seeding thing is like kind of played off as like, oh yeah, we've been doing this for a long time, but there are recent examples of it causing problems. Like wasn't all that flooding in the UAE recently, wasn't that due to cloud seeding? I'm pretty sure.
So, what I've read on that is the UAE does do cloud seeding, but that particular storm was, again, not it's for localized type thing is how you can
Okay.
affect it. That was a big system that moved over a couple countries and flooded a number of countries on its way to the UAE as well. So
Okay.
it would have rained anyways, and
Hmm.
I don't think there was any seeding that took place before that. There's
I
some
see.
places you're just going to get a lot of rain too.
I
But
also
is something else directing a large storm like that to create flooding in a certain area? Does that technology exist other than cloud seeding? Maybe.
something there was the floods in Houston too, in Texas, I believe it was earlier this year, and then the cloud seeding company had cloud seeded just before that.
That was when the children's camp got
I
flooded out,
believe so.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they admitted it, and but yeah. Anyway, admitted that they did it, but who knows what they added to it or what they did. And I think what we'll get into too, maybe even right now, is a good segue into it. Is this, so that we know that they do it. It's admitted. There's companies, but there's also what we see with our eyes that they won't admit is going on, right? And that's the lines and the crisscross grid patterns, and the constant haze, and they always seem to put an X right over the sun. Those sorts of things that everyone can see when they go outside. Like and I encourage everyone to do their own research who's listening. But even if you don't do research, you can look out and see what it does.
Yeah.
And feel how you feel, right? Like it does affect how you feel, especially where we live. There's not as much pollution and contaminants, and you really notice it. I really notice it when they spray just in my nasal cavity and areas like that, right? So,
And I think based on what I've looked into, again, I'm no expert in the field. I'm an amateur meteorologist. But in terms of like clouds, what those big lines across the skies that we see, I don't believe those are cloud seeding, just so that we're clear. But geoengineering is another weather modification
Yes.
technology that is talked about out there. And the difference is everything I've read about cloud seeding is, again, very localized impact. So you're not going to have these huge swaths. But I don't think there's any recognized programs of geoengineering in North America. But I think what we're seeing with our eyes is essentially what it is, which cloud seeding happens in the troposphere, where all the weather normally happens, our bottom layer. But, those streaks are way high in the sky. It's a blanket of white. And that's, to me, they call it solar radiation modification, which its purpose is either to reflect sun's rays and radiation off the earth to help keep it cool, or to help even warm underneath. They sometimes do it at night to keep large areas warm as well.
To manipulate the weather for,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so everything I've read, I mean, that's what I see up in the sky. And I've heard about chemtrails as well. As what are chemtrails? Is there a difference between that and the geoengineering? And I think that's a different thing altogether as well.
Like those are called
Very much
Hey, man, those are stratospheric aerosol injections, right? I believe that's like what they call it. Yeah, way up high.
Yeah.
And not chemtrails. And there's a distinct difference between chemtrails and contrails. And I've been alive long enough to notice I've seen contrails my whole life, and you see them come out and they dissipate and you don't see them anymore, and that's it. But these are different. Like they're distinct lines and distinct patterns following a grid.
And a blanketing effect, right?
Yeah,
Like it's that when you wake up in the morning and it's sunny, and then you see them grid the sky, and then within a few hours you're just under this haze, this white gray haze, and that's not typical cloud behavior.
And again, maybe this is experimental. They're not talking about. We do see it here in Ontario sometimes, but talking to Mike, I think you guys see it a lot more out there.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something to do with forest fire prevention. Who knows? I'm giving benefit of the doubt on that one, that it may be being used for good.
Yeah.
But there is, I'm with you guys, like a lot of air traffic around where I live, close to, Pearson Airport. And there is increase over the years of number of planes in the sky, but there is a difference between a contrail. Even now, I still see contrails, but there is definitely a very specific grid pattern that's being flown in these cases with very hazy skies afterwards. And it's noticeable. You see it frequent enough that, especially meteorologists are, looking up in the sky all the time, it's noticeable, and it's definitely not just contrails.
And it's definitely not just happening in Canada or just here, right?
No,
It's happening. It's happening pretty much in NATO countries, is my understanding. But now it's expanded to South America as well. And
last time I was in Mexico,
Australia.
I was sitting on the beach watching them grid the sky.
Yeah,
right. It seems to be like one pattern I've noticed, and I think this is intentional, obviously, is like, and plays into the argument against them just being contrails, is they seem to increase when weather systems are moving in. So it's almost like a way to like beef up a weather system or stop and change trajectory of a weather system, but like we're supposed to get, if you look at Weather Network, we're supposed to get a week of solid rain. And we've had 2 sunny days, and both days they've just been gritting the sky constantly. So
Yeah.
to me, it's like they know the system is coming in. And that's also probably why we see it more out here, because we're, on the coast, and that's where the weather systems come from. So it's there's got to be some intent to it, right?
Well, it's something that I fully agree with you, and I think you do as well, Rick. And it's maybe we can pull them up in a second. That's how the conversation with Rick and I started about all this stuff was me noticing that and him sending me these screenshots daily of in early 2020 of the weather and the radar weather across Canada, and these weird circular patterns like swirls, but they were all right where all the new NextRad radar weather stations have went in, almost as if it was pulling them in or right. It's hard. I'm just telling you what I saw with my own eyes. And I know now there's been a lot more research on it. And a lot of people think that is what is happening with those weather stations. Elena Freeland goes on about what she thinks it's about. Like, I don't know if you want to speak to that in a little bit, but Rick, is there anything you want to add?
No, but what the weird things I was seeing on radar, and it did start, I think, August 2020 is when I started noticing it, was because again, I'm just checking the radar twice a day, and I'm looking out at night, staring up at this like a perfectly starry night, not a cloud in the sky. Pull up the radar, and there's these big circular patterns over where I was living at the time, which was Guelph. And I'm like, it's showing rain, but it's clearly not raining. There's not a cloud in the sky. I checked the layers, no cloud coverage at all, but it's picking up something on the radar. I'm like, well, that's interesting. And, just kind of made note of it, took a screenshot. And then I started seeing this pattern repeating multiple locations at one time across North America, not just, in Guelph. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on here, but, and looked into it scientifically. They call it anomalous propagation, essentially. It's ground clutter and this and that. But I started being like, how can that, or atmospheric conditions can cause this effect as well? But how could it be impacting so many different locations at the exact same time in those cases, right? It didn't make sense to me as an answer. And I hypothesize at this point, obviously radar is picking up something. It's electromagnetic interference of some sort from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And again, 5G was launched around that time, I think January of 2020. And then Bell by Rogers, Bell, I think, started in June of 2020. And maybe that's what it's picking up. But yeah, to this day, I just wonder, all that electromagnetivity is all around us. Radar's picking it up. No one's noticing.
Yeah.
Is that having an impact on us at all? I just wonder. Is
that those screenshots that you sent me?
Yeah.
That's here. I'm gonna pull those up real quick, just so we can have a look. If it's gonna let me here.
But anyways, I would also see while you're pulling that up, so these weird donut shapes around clearly radar areas, right? But then I'd also see these spokes, which seem to be very, very different as well. And I've seen them together as well. So there's definitely interference coming from these sources. I just wonder, hey, if the radar's picking it up, it exists, and is it harmful at all to us?
Yeah.
And at the time, there wasn't a lot of theories or talk about what was going on. But now, I've seen enough, and I realize there are videos on Twitter or whatever, but enough different people looking into it where they show like these zaps where a system will be moving across the states, because a lot of it's based in the states, and they'll show the weather station zap and do exactly the pattern that you used to show. Just for a second, like you see the zap, and then the weather system grows exponentially and turns. You know what I mean? Almost like they are trying to direct it,
steering it. Yeah.
And also, there's a connection which we'll get into in a little bit, or kind of now if we want, but that like between HAARP stations around the world, because it's not just the one in Alaska, right? Between these weather stations, between 5G towers, they're all using radio waves on a gridded system. And
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'll have to splice in those radars just because it won't let me share a quick
Oh,
time window. But
it won't.
no,
Okay.
I can't. I have to change my system settings and but I can pull up your slideshow at any time to pull anything
Actually,
up.
if you pull up the slideshow, it's got some examples of the stills that I captured, so it's not video,
Sure.
but it'll show some of the different
Yeah,
shapes to give
that would work.
people a sense of what we're looking at.
Yeah.
And for those that aren't watching and just listening, I'll try my best to describe it to you.
Right on. You're more on the ball than I am. All right. There we go. You can see that.
I can see that. So if you go to slide 6.
6. There we go.
So slide 6. So that was that first night in August 2020 when I looked up, perfectly starry sky, and I'm seeing this, which on a weather pattern would show as light rain, if that's, what the actual weather was doing. And over the course of 2 hours, this thing didn't move. It just hovered there was a little bit of variation to it, but generally held its shape and then dissipated and disappeared. And then if you go to slide 8, so this is, again, I picked it up on the Windy app. I picked it up on the Weather Network radar. I picked it up on the Canadian radar, the government radar. This anomaly of, again, these shapes happening all simultaneously down the eastern board that have many different, weather conditions at the time and what's going on. But just to show these weird shapes and circular patterns that kept happening. And it would be, to explain the video, and for those, they're kind of donuts, which seems over every little major town across the eastern seaboard, just lighting up either blue or green. And yeah, in a video, it'd last for 3 hours. It'd come on at night, almost around 10, 11 o'clock every night. And
That's
then
right.
3 hours later, it would shut off. But it was like almost something was turning on and turning off.
Or I remember I remember you saying that, or as the sun went down, because that was in the summer, right? As the sun went down, it would cool a little bit.
Yeah.
Was that, yeah, that's always seemed to be when it would happen.
But if you
Yeah.
go to slide 9, for example.
And this coincided to two things I just wanted to make sure of, Rick. Like this isn't normal. It doesn't go on anymore. And this coincided with the launch of 5G and the building of all these next gen weather stations.
My theory is that this still does go on now.
Okay.
My theory is that they retune the instruments so that the radar can detect this interference type for the most case and filter it out so they get a cleaner image, because this has been,
Okay.
they got ahead of this issue. They knew that 5G introduction would actually have an effect on their instruments. So I think we were initially seeing what they were seeing, but they've since been able to fine tune their instruments to filter out what they consider ground scatter anomalous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those, I remember too, those circles on, this is figure 9, right? Those circles kind of up over Saskatchewan there and Manitoba, that all of those coincide with weather stations, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So like where they are is where that new weather station just got put in, because they all got built across Canada in starting in 2020 and I think finished in 2024.
So it's effectively just like these surges of EMF that are popping up, because there's been a lot of lately. I've been there's been a lot of solar activity lately, and when that's been ramping up, they've been following these like anomalous blobs through the ocean. I don't know if you've seen those, the radar of like the ocean blobs.
Yeah.
And this is just, I'm connecting the dots with this because they behave very similar to this. They're just kind of like there, they hover, and then they're just gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Weird.
I wanted to bring up, so this is, I don't know if you've ever looked into Elena Freeland.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so I have one of her books, and this is from back in 2014. And so she's talking about HAARP and chemtrails, and this is a theory of the pump and dump. So it basically says ionospheric heaters like HAARP boil the ionosphere and create a high pressure area that pulls the stratosphere up along with the atmosphere. On both sides of the high pressure area, a bumper zone then forces low pressure around it. In this way, the jet stream can be displaced by as much as 100 miles away, depending upon the length of the intensity, intention, etc., as low pressure, cold, and high pressure, hot winds are increased to storm or hurricane levels, then steered to where the target weather is wanted. If a high pressure zone is wanted somewhere else, HAARP in tandem with another ionospheric heater can move it over, say, Iran and create a drought. So it's like the theory of basically like, yeah, they're pumping up the energy, localizing it, and then they can dump the energy wherever they want.
Pick it up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Or add it to an existing system, like take it and add it to a hurricane to, you know what I mean? Or not even a
Intensify
hurricane.
it.
Yeah. Crazy.
So, and this is documented. Like that's how it works.
Mhm.
So,
Well, I do know that heating up of the troposphere, which is where like 80% of the mass of our atmosphere is, and most of the water molecules by the poles. And it's funny that I've seen interesting activities at the HAARP Research Center, which is in Alaska.
Mhm.
And there's a bunch of things I've looked into, even in Antarctica and the southern anomaly down there. But heating up the troposphere, so not the ionosphere, which HAARP is supposed to be investigating, but the troposphere can affect the jet stream, which has the biggest impact on weather as well.
Mhm.
And so my working theory that I believe right now is I do believe they're messing with it, potentially with this HAARP technology. Can't confirm that. But if the ability is there, I think they have ways to influence. I don't know if it's possible to, I want to go to this place right now, but they can use kind of what's working in the environment for a likely outcome if they did this. And it would have reaching, like global kind of, impact to it overall, not just a localized one. But I think I've seen evidence of that as well.
When HAARP first came out as well, like when they first applied for the patent, which was owned by the military.
Yeah.
Now it's at the University of Alaska Fairbanks or something who owns them. But they said that what happened in the ionosphere couldn't impact our atmosphere. Like they could do whatever essentially, and it wouldn't impact our weather. And now there's multiple studies that have come out that said that's completely false, and they are, and these are the different ways, and and it's basically through electrifying, like it electrifies our atmosphere. So what they're doing in the ionosphere will cause our atmosphere to be electrified, which goes to Freeland's argument too, that they're laying this kind of cloud, this space fence, I think is what she calls it, right? So they're spraying to kind of electrify everything to allow HAARP to work at a different, I guess allows it to exponentially work better, and it allows things to work better with smart dust technology and 5G technology.
Yeah.
And for them to control the radio waves completely. Right?
It effectively builds a cable network between.
But up in the air.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's the funny thing, because that is their cover story, right? Their research facility, and I think they are now technically owned by the University of Alaska or something of that sort.
Yeah.
But they were, funded by DARPA originally, as and the military. So it's interesting to hear what they're going on. But they've always been about ionospheric research, and it's just funny that radio waves have the ability to heat up the troposphere as well, right?
Yeah.
Well, they could be using one thing. They could be doing multiple experiments throughout our atmosphere, right? Maybe this technology has many different uses. I've even heard the ability to impact earthquakes as well. I don't know if you guys have heard that and some of the stories behind, HAARP triggering earthquakes and the merit in that. But
she pretty much blames the entire Haiti quake on HAARP and that whole system. I think it's a compounding thing, right? Like as they learn what they're able to do and what they can control and refine their experiments, they can just keep building upon it.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to bring up one of the most interesting things I found in this book was how it affects, like how they use solar cycles and weather to affect like investment strategies. So I don't know if you knew this, but Enron before they were
Enron.
and before they were Enron, had an element of their business called the weather desk, and it was basically tracking weather patterns, solar interference, things like this, so that they could short the market if they knew there was going to be like a flood where they're growing soybeans, right? Like they could do all that, and so it's obviously there's some incentive there.
There's many applications for them to take the information they get from doing this testing and how they can make money off it.
Yeah,
right?
and when Enron went belly up, there wasn't really like any fighting over their like existing assets or any of their like contracts or debt or anything like that. But what there was a bidding war on was their system, this weather desk system that's now owned and implemented in hedge funds all over the place. So like if they can use this to basically direct, now they direct weather, they can direct development, they can direct the stock market, all using EMFs.
Yeah.
See,
Radio waves and
now you're going to have
algorithms.
me going down a rabbit hole of who got really rich immediately after the Haiti earthquake.
Yeah, right. Like, yeah, it's always like
Who
follow the
profited
money.
from this?
Always, yeah.
Because my belief
Cui
is,
bono.
again, from what I've read, HAARP, like the technology, a bunch of question marks, but it does use high energy radio waves. And radio waves, like I think it's may not be possible just to, I want to start an earthquake here now, but I think they could recognize, because Haiti was building up to a massive earthquake at that point, and maybe they're like just questioning, what if we gave it a little push? Just, a little bit of vibration, or just a little push. If we directed this instrument here, maybe we could push it over. And they're like, oh my goodness, yeah, we can.
There's a significant amount of research that's been done recently on being able to predict where earthquakes are going to be based on where one has occurred, I think, like on the opposite side of the earth kind of thing, and with solar radiation also affecting and possibly creating earthquakes. They would have that information to have a best guess of where to aim that, at least, right? So that's what you're saying. Find a situation and just kind of see what happens with it, not necessarily create the earthquake.
Well,
but
it's easy to gather funding for those things too, because it's a like disaster relief or whatever, like early warning systems. That's how they play them off, right? But it's which like obviously there is an application for that.
yeah,
But it's what an easy way to kind of like slide under the radar for pun intended. But
and immediately after that earthquake too, the Venezuelan president Chavez came out and blamed the U.S. on the HAARP technology causing, which makes you wonder too of, I mean, I only have access to so much information, but why would he immediately think that? And I know, again, countries are at war and you got some people in office that say ridiculous things and you don't know what's going on in their heads, but it was interesting that popped up, that it wasn't just me who's researching wondering, I wonder if that was used, but someone coming out, and it was in the papers too, of them being called out of question if HAARP had a role in that earthquake.
Well, people have been talking about this stuff for a long time. It just like chemtrails were always that was the one conspiracy. Even for a long time, I was like, I can't go down that. I don't believe in chemtrails, but JFK, okay, not a lone shooter, and 9/11, 100%. But chemtrails was still one I couldn't. But HAARP is another one, and there's so much, if you look back, mentions like Hugo Chavez where people were saying it and we just dismissed it.
Because I think that one of the main arguments that comes up, especially with the chemtrail thing, is like, well, these people breathe the same air we breathe, so why would they poison their own atmosphere, right? Like, why would they do? But if it's not really about that, it's more of like a conduit to be able to control their other, the other technologies that are out there and stuff. Then, like,
And hey, a while back I got Flight Tracker and did track a bunch of these flights, and I ended up getting so frustrated and angry. I had to delete it because I don't need someone to direct my anger at. I actually needed to research more and learn about it and felt better. But most of the planes that were doing it were military planes. Not most, sorry, a lot. There was a lot of planes where I would have Flight Tracker and something would go over and it wouldn't be on Flight Tracker, it wouldn't be on anything. And from looking into it, it was mostly military planes that were doing it. They're not going to care.
Yeah.
Not going to care, but you know what I mean? They're just following orders, right? That's what the military does. So that's how you get around the spraying part. I've also told you, both of you, my theory about that it's AI. Not that I'm not saying it's not provable, and it's like my sometimes just smoked a joint theory that it's AI doing it, that it's AI. Like those are robots in those planes. There's an AI facility somewhere building planes and sending them out to do it, because at the end of the day, this is needed for the next step with the digital ID and the
Mm-hmm.
and all of that stuff. This is needed. They need to electrify everything. They need to.
So before we jump into the 5G kind of hive mind aspect of it, like Rick, where do you stand on? Because we're in the realm of direct energy weapons. So with like the Maui fires, with the ones in California, even in Canada, like we've had terrible fire seasons for a decade. What's your take on that? Do you think that this is playing a role in this like cataclysms that we're seeing?
Maybe I'll take one step back and then I'll answer that, which is just my take on chemtrails, because I'm kind of with you guys of all the weather modifications that are out there and some of the theories. I see that as the least likely, not unplausible, that they're just trying to poison us or someone's trying to poison us from the skies. The only what if in there is, again, you got my mind going about, well, unless someone profits, right? So hypothetically, if Big Pharma is producing the chemicals to put in the plane to make people sick, and they have the, you know, I guess the antidote or the cure for whatever is ailing the people, then that could be a plausible theory in my head. I put that at maybe a 5%er, like not very likely. On the ray technology, I mean, it's been in science fiction. They've imagined this a long time ago, and again, the technology I think exists. I do know HAARP has the ability to knock satellites out of the sky, or at least that's what I've read. A number of theories that the technology exists where they can, interfere with the radio frequencies and render them useless. So, that's one aspect of using rays, maybe not necessarily a death ray, perchance, but I mean, I haven't dove deep into all of the world's new technologies, but I have to imagine if you could create a death ray, someone would.
Right.
They've been trying to for a long time.
It's at least been drawn up. Yeah.
And I think maybe so it's a little bit veering from the weather mod side, other than, maybe there's it's all interworking here, and at play together, where it seems just lately that there's been some instances where they want to start from scratch in certain areas of the world, right? Whether it's Maui in this neighborhood, whether it's, I think, in Banff, or, some of these locations.
The mining in West Virginia, like the area that got hit in West Virginia really bad, right? The lithium mines that they want to put in there, coincidentally.
But similar to, like, going into war, if you consider this a worldwide war, not to stretch too far, but you get paid so much money to rebuild those afterwards, right? And that's where the money is. So, do I think they could be using weather to do that? Yes. The energy rate, I mean, I've looked into that too. That's a weird one, but that definitely goes into more the weapons of the future category than the weather. So I can't speak too much about it.
They can certainly use like radio frequency to affect mood over a large swath of a population, right? Yeah. Good or bad, excite, upset.
I mean, we
agitate.
We've been using sound frequency and stuff to deter, like there's certain frequencies that humans can't hear. Like a dog whistle is like an early example of using frequency as a weapon. That's basically what it is. You're targeting a certain frequency that can only be heard by this creature, and that then you go outside of a 7-Eleven and they have those like humming things, and I guess like only people that haven't gone through puberty can hear it.
Really?
So it deters loitering.
That's crazy.
I know this is like a stretch, like very different, but frequency warfare is like been around for ages, right?
Well,
on that note, can you bring up slide 10 of the presentation?
Yeah.
They've known and manipulated frequency, like church bells, right? That's what's supposed to be a helpful thing. But right? Like they, in quotation marks, have known about frequency and its uses and benefits and drawbacks forever.
So which one am I going? Sorry, I don't have
this one here. So you're talking about, again, this is picking up interference, which could be frequencies, right?
Yeah.
But what I want to draw is the biggest shade starting on the right, where you see it goes from green to yellow to red, which is coming almost like it's directed at Ottawa. Right? Mm-hmm. You see a bunch of other spokes in different areas.
Yeah. When was this from, Rick?
So this was the morning that they broke up the convoy, the trucker convoy in
No
Ottawa,
way.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
where again, time when they're like trying to settle people down. I've heard that it can cause, disorientation, anxiety. It can even calm people down, but using
Yeah.
radio waves over, various individual areas, I found this very interesting where I'm like, what is that? And then the
Yeah.
next morning, like I think this was at like 12 something in the morning, but caught
It-
it like it's even going through the snow, like through the different layers. It started as rain going over top. So on
Yeah.
the left one, that's rain with those bands in place, then snow, and then it cleared, the system moved and cleared out. And it was a consistent line there until, 3 days later, and never saw it again.
Whoa. Yeah, that is wild.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
And it can make people suggestible too, right?
Yep.
That's another big frequency thing.
Mm-hmm.
You combine that with some other elements.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's what I was saying with the, like, if we get into the whole 5G thing, that's really where Elena Freeland kind of comes from, is that she believes that this is all smart dust, basically just like future tech being sprayed into the air so that it creates a, and then if we got to get into the smack scene stuff where you
It interacts with that.
you basically turn people into a transmitter,
Mhm.
and now you have the everything is, all the energy is floating around them, and it's contained because of this shield that is
Mhm.
over us, and then they can utilize and pinpoint people based on like where they are, where they're transmitting from.
Yeah.
So part of the control grid thing, which
Yeah.
is, we're getting pretty out there with that, but I mean, it makes sense.
What are your thoughts on that, Rick?
Well, I mean, related, I've looked into and heard that HAARP, one of its purposes was for ground penetrating radar, essentially to find things either deep in the oceans or underground bunkers and caches to find weapons, as part of, again, being
Okay.
funded
That was
by
one of its
America.
original intents, correct?
Yeah.
Using the radio waves to go down as well as up.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's like when you think about, okay, that energy is ground penetrating and can have that power, but that's also radiating through us as well, which what are the effects on us as humans? And it seems to be working in concert. Like all this is coming up at the same time as these, what I'd call geoengineering clouds, or the hazy skies, right? Which maybe they're working in concert together, to in some way, shape, or form. Maybe it's a way of enhancing the technology, a next step, so that they get better visibility into whatever they're trying to do. But yeah, I haven't read too much into her stuff. I've just started dabbling in there, so it's definitely
She's-
going to be another read I do.
Yeah, no, she's awesome.
She believes too that we're being sprayed by nanobots as well. And is it Magellan's? Magellan? Not Magellan. That's
Morgellons.
Morgellons.
Morgellons, where
disease.
people are pulling like fibers out of their skin
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah, and there's I mean, that could just be byproduct of it, right? Like it's just a side effect.
That gets into black goo stuff too, but
well, yeah.
That's
So it's
another-
interesting because is all of this, like you said, like this anomalous radar stuff, all ties in. It all starts around like 2020, and I've said for the longest time since all the the COVID shit went down, I was like, this is an excuse to shut everything down to install new infrastructure. That's like, how many I mean, I work in an industry where I see commissioning bids and things like that for new facilities and whatever, and there was like the amount of upgrading that was done on the fiber optic networks across the country and things like that, the electrical grid, like just reinforcing it. And I understand like our population grows, so we have to reinforce our infrastructure and stuff, but things were being approved and greenlit and rushed like I've never seen before.
during a time when everyone else was stopping everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like I get them trying to upgrade everything. That's what goes on.
Mhm.
But doing it during that time seemed really odd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and again, coinciding with this time where a bunch of people were getting sick. And I know that I've heard stories, of when they first installed the power lines, like down in the southern US, they did this like it was a thing. You could go on a train and go see the new infrastructure and the new power grid that they were building, and all the people on the side of you got a train coming this way, you got a train going this way, and they had only built the power lines on the one side.
Mhm.
Everyone that was on this train,
Like the eastbound train.
yeah, like parallel to the power lines, fell ill.
Huh.
And the theory is that it's because their bodies weren't used to those frequencies and stuff, right? And it's kind of the same thing with this 5G and stuff. It's like we're putting the human body through something it's never been through. It's being just blasted with radio waves and stuff.
Yeah.
And then between that and Wi-Fi and just everything around us, so you carry a cell phone with you that's like, transmitting constantly.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's like, but again, like, is this something that our bodies adapt to, or there's got to be a point when we just don't?
I wondered for the longest time when people were talking about like the brain fog associated after COVID,
right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
because everyone I talked to, it's just like they just felt a little off,
Yeah.
just like couldn't get it together. Like I was like, is that really a COVID thing, or is that more related to the launch of 5G? I don't know.
yeah,
A lot of at that time, I remember a lot of the beginning COVID cases, especially in Italy. Like, remember how it was in Italy before it was in North America, and there was all the fake caskets being.
Yep.
5G towers had just went up in Italy. 5G towers went up in Wuhan. Like they were going up in all the places where it kind of seemed to be.
Well, and who was getting sick?
Yeah.
It was old people.
Yeah.
Right. Like I've been
Who
my
couldn't fight it.
Yeah, my generation. I've been around like EMFs. I've been around Wi-Fi since I was 14 years old. Right. So it's like my body's probably adapted to the stuff far more than someone who grew up without any of that.
Yeah.
The brain fog thing that could everything is in concert with each other, I think, because that could be 5G, it could be HAARP, it could be what they're spraying, it could be what got injected into them, it could be what they eat, right? Like what they actually physically eat could be causing it. There's so many things now.
Yeah, I started smoking a lot more weed during all that time too. So who knows?
Yeah,
I do have a theory on just some of the what we'll call the geoengineering clouds, so the blanket clouds after spraying, and the intent of that. Again, nothing out there. They can't find anything, but just looking at, I think speaking about earlier, I'm really into space weather as well.
Mhm.
And we are in a solar maximum right now. We've had a number of flares. There's expectations that, even though we're past the peak of solar maximum, the back end is still going to be quite active in terms of flares. And with that comes increased radiation as well. And maybe it could be experimentation about, expectation that radiation levels may raise to some extent, and how do we prevent that from happening? And they're experimenting with that to see if that works in some way, shape, or form. But that's a working theory that I have of why would they do this? What is the purpose? If they're not trying to poison us, if they're not trying, is there a potential good reason? And why don't they talk about it? Might be they don't want to scare people about, the effects and changes of the sun. And the sun goes through a bunch of changes over time as well.
Yeah.
That have had impacts on our Earth. And maybe they're seeing a change that they're trying to get ahead of a problem on, and they don't want to tell us yet.
I would love to believe that they are looking out for our best interests as a whole.
Yeah.
But that's my only, that would be my only criticism of that one, is I think if they could say, hey, look what good we're doing with this carbon tax money or whatever, you know what I mean? They would say it. They wouldn't lose the opportunity to say it if they could, in my opinion.
Well, if they
not wanting to scare people.
It could be something that does impact their life as well, right? Like, if there was a Carrington effect solar flare, I forget exactly the magnitude it was, but it was back in the 1800s, and they do happen, it would wipe out our entire power grid. That would change humanity, right?
Yeah, I think it would have to be like
real
above
threats from the sun that, put the rich and poor. The rich have their bunkers already, right?
They're aware that could happen. I think they're prepared, and I've heard talk to that HAARP is part of that. Like the HAARP project is part of bypassing that. So if there is a Carrington event and no one can communicate, they can still communicate with the HAARP facility.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've.
Well,
some things.
I mean, there's.
I think Nick Begich is one person who says
there's
that.
totally a possibility that that's what causes these resets that everyone talks about, right? Is like yeah, these I think they said it has to be above an X5 in order for it to like be a grid down situation. And even at the peak of this storm, we've only hit like a 1 point X 1.8 or something like that. So not enough to knock our power grid down. And they have obviously our power grid's a lot more robust than it used to be as well.
Yeah.
So, but it's also a lot more overloaded than it ever has been.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean it would be a great equalizer, that's for sure.
Yeah.
What so the auroras that I've been seeing now over the last couple of years, I sent you the pictures of the one from last year. Rick, there's nothing to bring up,
Oh,
but
okay.
just do you think that that's calming from sun weather, or do you think that or space weather, or do you think that is and I guess our magnetic shield weakening, or do you think that is HAARP or both? Because I've seen talk that it's could be both, or what are your
I'm
thoughts on that?
I'm open to many theories around that. I mean, fact is, we have the northern lights or auroras when X flares create CMEs that hit the Earth. Like that's a scientific fact. Um, they've happened for a long time. The Carrington event, for example, the northern lights were seen like down in the Caribbean, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's
Mhm.
a worrisome situation. Um, I do forget. I think we did get to. I can fact check this in a second here. I think we did get to an X class 5 this solar cycle. I'd
Oh,
have to
okay.
double check. The Carrington event, I'll double check what that was, but it was like I think like 85 or something like that. It was
I see.
significant.
Okay.
But there was a couple that caused the northern lights that we saw in Guelph, as far south as Guelph. That was by a couple, one class X flares back to back, and it sparked magnetic storming they were not expecting. It was like, whoa, that shouldn't have
Yeah.
happened. And so, yeah, I mean, is HAARP at play with that? Don't know. The sun is definitely a source of the energy for sure, originating, but it could be a sign of, yeah, weakening magnetic field, which again happens over time. It's documented right now. Our poles are traveling as well, and there is a trend towards weakening. So that could be interrelated and could be cause for concern as well. But
They did look much different though. Like I've seen the Northern Lights a few times in my life. I've been lucky to, and you've seen them like in the Yukon, Rick, and right, correct, or
yeah,
Northwest Territories is where you saw them, and Alaska.
yep,
Did these ones, like the ones we're talking about, I think from a year and a half ago, if I remember correctly, in May of 2024, did those ones, they looked different to me than ones I'd ever seen. They were overhead, like they weren't just up north, like you know what I mean, and the dancing fingers of green and purple, like they were, the entire sky was red and had this crazy movement. And I think you said it was me seeing the solar wind. That was
yeah,
the what you said to, yeah, yeah.
yeah. A lot of reds in that one, which
Yeah, it
was,
was.
and when
Mm.
I've been up north, I've seen again almost like dancing greens and stuff like that, and beautiful. And there's, I mean, some definite like even like I've seen pictures from Iceland, like you get different colors and different things, but so I don't know if it's related to the intensity or the fact that the storm was literally happening overhead, right? Where
Yeah,
because it can get, move around as well, but
yeah, that was it. That was, I was just gonna say, that was one of the craziest things I've ever watched in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really
but yeah,
neat.
so the I double checked the Carrington event X flare was an X45.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Okay. I was
Okay.
way off. Yeah.
And when it for that X scale, is it an exponential thing like with the Richter scale and
Yeah.
earthquakes? Yeah. So it's not like it's like 40 times more. Is that how it works?
Well,
40 times more?
typically what we see is only like M class flares, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure most of the ones that shoot off the sun are just like weak little.
That's because that X5 one there people were worried about. That's
Yeah.
crazy that the Carrington event was an X45.
But I mean that affects mood and stuff too. Like
Yeah.
if I'll go on whatever these forums that and there'll be people talking about, solar weather and stuff, and then people listing their symptoms from it, and it's like irritability, trouble
Yeah.
sleeping, ringing in the ears, like vertigo, like very things that you would think would be affected by frequency,
Hmm.
you know.
And that's when those sunspots come. Those are the
Yeah.
symptoms that people get. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and we did have a couple X5s, but so in scale, but anything north of like an X10, and they happen. They've
Mhm.
happened this solar cycle. They've happened on the other side of the sun where they
Just not Earth
they
facing.
can't see, but they're like, "Whoa, that must have been a big one," because they didn't weren't observing the right side because we rotate around it, right?
That's what they say. Yeah.
That's what they. I don't know what I believe anymore.
Well, that's just
Right.
it. That's
Yeah.
just it, right? It's like it is. You start to wonder, like, what all has been manipulated this whole time. And I've noticed there's always like panic about weather and stuff now too. It's gotten very like uh theatrical, like these atmospheric rivers and like
Yeah. The names are
the
crazy.
names are crazy and they're totally just like raid like clickbait.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
So
storm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's rain.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It's
do think
crazy.
what inspires a lot of weather modification talk, though, is like weather just by nature is very unpredictable, right?
yeah,
So I think people with, just questioning things and whatnot, they'll look at and they can't be like, it can't have been just that strong, or it can't have, whoa, it's really weird that it hit this area at this time. But the nature of weather is like there's been some crazy things documented, you know, where it can't all be weather modification related, whether it's Hurricane
Some of it, yeah, it
Hazel,
could be
or
just weather. Yeah.
yeah.
the perfect storm in the northern Atlantic, and just how these systems can collide. That does happen, and weather gets super powerful, and we'll have more powerful storms than we've ever had before, just by nature of the right conditions happening at the right place at the right time and things lining up. So
Uh-huh.
I I that's what I always try and balance of, okay, bad weather does happen, big earthquakes happen, big solar flares, like all these things happen. Um, but I do believe, the people in charge are like, if we had that power and we could control that and do
Yeah,
that, would they? I'd say any leader in the world would.
Yeah. 100%.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like yeah, it's the ultimate control, right? So,
Mhm.
um,
What weird. So talking about HARP and the waves and all those things, that's another thing. I don't know if you notice it as much out where you are, Rick, but here I notice a lot of the grid gets laid down. It happens for a day or two, and then the waves start coming. Like you can see the clouds have this wave to it that's all perfectly symmetrical and matched, and it
yeah,
just it looks completely unnatural, unlike anything I've ever seen up until the last 5 or 6 years.
hmm
And yeah, I'm sure that must do something as well. And also where we live does dictate a lot of the weather for the rest of Canada, at least the north part of North America,
yeah,
right? Because the current comes through, goes up the Fraser Valley, and it pushes a lot of what the rest of Canada gets. So it could be them even doing it, trying to beef up everything so you guys get snowstorms like you got yesterday and
Yeah.
that sort of thing, right?
Well, to answer your question, Mike, if you go to slide 14,
Nice.
I
I knew
can
you'd have a
share with
question
you
for
what
me.
I see in Ontario, and we can compare notes here on any differences.
back to here. All right, so that
Slide
was 9, 10, 11.
10.
This is
Yeah.
So,
Oh, the old sundog, but not in the winter, eh?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
but
this
so
is
yeah, typically you'd see, and again, the top left there, plane flying through the sky, high altitude, the full stretch of the sky, not a short burst. Looks like those trails are so dense that they give off shadows at times, I've noticed,
yeah,
where it's like that looks weird. And then another one flies by, and then the bottom left is, you can still see some of the crisscrosses in the background, but talking about that grid pattern, but how again it just produces that haze, right? That just sits in there, and again, even to the point of blocking out the sun and definitely changing the color of the sun, right? That's
yeah.
this is based off my front door where I used to live in Guelph, for
Yeah.
reference.
Yeah, I mean, we see this almost daily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll get little periods where we don't see it. And then yeah, it happens a lot. And a lot of those sundogs, which are only supposed to happen when it's cold
Yeah.
and we get them a lot in the summer and spring.
Well, and they have like like a that rainbow like oil slick effect to them too a lot of the time. Like it's not just like, you see I understand that like light gets diffused, but it's like you're looking into a puddle that has oil in it.
Yeah.
It's super strange.
Yeah, agreed. And Rick, you would know this. There are certain clouds names that they've come up with in the last couple of years to account for this, correct? Like
I do.
maybe you can look it up while you're there, but I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that one
Sure.
of the cloud names, it's a Latin word, and what it means literally is human caused cloud.
Huh. Well, I mean,
And it's a new terminology from like last maybe 4 or 5 years.
and that's a big part of what they do is changing definitions of things. Like, so I was looking at because there is actually in Canada, like there's laws against weather modification, but there's also a little caveat at the bottom, if you look, that says like, it's something along the lines of like definitions can change. Basically, there's as things are updated,
And
as the
what
science is updated.
they banned it. They banned it in Florida and they banned it in Georgia, but they can only do it like to 1,000 feet. So, or there's some level,
There's
and
limitations.
this goes on above it. It's still happening in all those.
But
places.
that's one of the craziest parts is that people deny that this is happening, and then there's literally states that are outlawing this. Like, it's an admission of guilt, right? Like, if you're going to put a law in place that says you can't do this, that means that someone's doing it.
Yeah.
And then so for people to sit there and be like, well, no, that's not like, this is ridiculous.
It is. It's
So they've named
they are
12,
the conspiracy theorists now.
Yeah.
12 new different types of clouds.
Since when?
This is based on. So this article's published this past August, and it says nearly a dozen new cloud types added to. So pretty recent, I'd say, within the last year.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, yeah. It's that's the frustrating thing, right? It's like it's all about control. It's all about who controls the definitions, who controls the money, who controls the weather, who controls the food, who can,
and rewriting everything
to
suit their needs.
Yeah.
It doesn't give me the details into the naming convention of why it was named.
Oh, okay. So we can include that later. Nonetheless, it's going on. Everyone can see it.
Yeah.
It's quite obvious.
Yeah. So what's your take on like where is this headed? And like, have you looked into anything we can do to stop this, or like or is this is just our life now?
Yeah.
But before you start, just one thing I have a theory that they are going to start. They can't keep pretending this isn't going on. So at some point they're going to have to acknowledge that it is. And I think they're going to blame it on just regular air travel and use it as a reason to start clamping down on normal people.
Yeah.
Flying and
planes crashing every couple of weeks wasn't scaring people enough. So
right.
now
Airbus talking yesterday about solar radiation affecting their planes.
They grounded like 6,000 passenger planes to upgrade their
solar radiation, which is weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's part of it is they're going to use it to stop us from flying so much. But anyway, so what do you think, Rick, the way we can stop this, the way forward? What?
Well, in relation to I'll tackle one at a time. Cloud seeding, I do believe in it. I do believe it has benefits, and I do know you can't use weather modification technically as a weapon in the world. It's against international treaty, whatever international law is worth. So
we're bombing hospitals.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or so is.
But cloud seeding, like they have to put their flights into NOAA. They have to and get clearance from them. They need to get the proper paperwork to have a business running in those places. And there's mitigations put in place that they agree to, where again, if there's a high probability of causing a catastrophe, you're not seeding that day, right? Or so operating within certain parameters. So generally, I think cloud seeding is something that could help our planet a little bit. I worry about less about global warming and more about, our water that we live with, the microplastics that are in our water, and, hormones from even birth control. Like there's a bunch of things that are contaminating our water. So I definitely think the preservation of water and the ability that cloud seeding has to help with that is a good thing. HAARP, I try not to think about it too much because I compare that almost to, like, again, a weapon, right? That's how I see its potential. And I try not to think too much about all the nukes in the world either because it's out of our control. So while I'm aware and I wonder what's kind of going on in our atmosphere, it doesn't keep me up too much at night. The most interesting one is the geoengineering that we seem to be seeing with these, you know, totally blank white skies and whatnot. I do have a concern that probably our biggest threat is actually from the sun, and it's not from the earth. In our, I would say, somewhat near future, just based on trends. And what I do to get through the night and sleep through that is I have a to-go bag that's packed, and you just prepare for, hey, what would I do if the power went out and it did not come back on? I think
Mhm.
it's something that everyone should think about in the days that we live in. Our reliance on technology is just, yeah. How would I get through those first 3 days? What would I do? And to have the necessities, right? Like whether it's water purifying pens, backup batteries, lights, like at least something to give yourself a head start. Because if that event were to take place, whether from a man-made caused or from the sun, we're back to the Stone Age, and I think things would turn rather quickly. So I try to spend my efforts focusing about I can just prepare and have my family prepared should that happen one day.
Yeah. No, fair enough.
What do you mentioned the sun and it being an issue. What's the probability that we could be being lied to about that? Because we also need the sun to live, correct? And this whole blotting out the sun, like some people have suggested, it's to ruin crops. So you don't even, or to
Yep.
ruin moods, to not allow people to get vitamin D. It's something that's very important for eyesight, right? Things like that. And it's part of being human. It's part of being on this earth has been the sun for, well, we're not going to get into when the sun came around,
Oh,
but
we've worshipped the sun
Yeah.
for since the dawn of time, right?
yeah. So like it's controlling the most and one of the most important things, And another thing too to think about is it blotting something else out? Like, are they trying to do it to
That's
Yeah.
keep us from
yeah.
seeing something like a three-eye atlas
Yeah,
or right? Or
I've often thought that where it's like, or just as simple, like if they are experimenting with like aerial craft, right? It's like, well, yeah, you can't have people seeing this weird disc shaped thing fly across the sky. So we create this low level cover and then,
Mhm.
operate our business above that.
I'm not saying I believe it, just I think sometimes there's a lot of misdirection used by the government when it comes to what they're
Yeah.
doing, what the actual cause is, and what they want us to talk about the cause is. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's still very hard to talk about chemtrails or HAARP on any social media, right? It's not something,
Oh
it's
yeah. Yeah.
still a shunned thing.
I won't put this on YouTube because it'll just get flagged and
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas you can say literally anything else, I think nowadays is fair game,
Yeah.
but this is still one that's not.
yeah, no, I get your point about the sun. Again, the sun is good for us. We need the sun to live. Like it's that
Mhm.
things need to live in harmony, right? And I think, I guess small world in a very large universe, can be chaotic at times. And if you look back in history, like I don't know how much you've looked back into cataclysms and the 12,000 year cycle that we're getting
Mhm.
close to as well, but a lot of evidence for people going underground, right?
Hmm.
Um, into these caves and whatnot. And maybe a theory is back then they couldn't geoengineer and block radiation, and it was making them sick, so they went underground. Like it might be a leap to suggest that, but
No, that's
you
for
look
sure one of the
back
theories.
where
Yeah.
cycles happen over time, and I don't think the sun is necessarily our enemy, but I mean, I think it's clear to everyone if it blew up like that, that's
Yeah.
billions of years away, but that's our demise, right? Like this is a very powerful force that can have an impact on our world, and yeah, I think it's
Well, there's lots of even culturally, like you talk about the Hopi, and they have the stories of the ant people they lived underground, right? They were inner Earth people, and they lived there because wasn't safe to be on the surface level.
Yeah. That
So
place in Turkey as well,
yeah,
Kuru,
yeah,
right? Like a 10,000 person city
yeah.
underground.
And we see these billionaires building bunkers every
Mhm.
day, right? Like they're preparing for something, like
The
whether
pyramids.
it's nuclear war or whatever they think is going to happen. Like they see a reason to head underground at some point. So
Mhm.
or the
Yeah.
next ice age, right? Like
yeah,
related to weather, where maybe it's not or maybe sun's radiation's impact on the Earth causes an ice age, and people are going closer to the underground to stay warm. Like it could be anything, but yeah, just something
Mm.
I've thought about.
Could issues with the sun cause plasma storms? And if you don't
Well,
know, then that's like I'm just
well,
as a guy, I'm curious.
would
Just because
you?
there are stories of plasma, right? Joseph P. Farrell, I think, is someone who
Yeah.
talks about that plasma storms being something that's went on during certain times. And the reason I ask is because HAARP does create plasma for a minute when it shoots its the radio waves up to the ionosphere. It does create plasma, little sprites they're called.
Would you
Like, is it
consider like the Northern Lights auroras plasma storms?
well? Is that when I say plasma storm, I mean like the like plasma actually landing on Earth. Do you know what I mean? Like making it down here, or is that something that just occurs up above and we see it as auroras or lightning or
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say
sheet lightning? I think is
all
part of that.
lightning is plasma, right? So it makes its way down. It's just like, but it has to be charged in order for it to actually I guess combust.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's doing. So
Do you think possibly this haze that we're seeing could accentuate what happens from the solar waves? Or like I know that you mentioned there's a possibility it could be blocking it. Could they be doing it to accentuate it because they know it's happening? They know the magnetosphere is weakening, right? Or the magnetic shield's weakening.
well, yeah, because I mean, there's theories out there that they're trying to that they know that there's like a cataclysmic event coming, or that there's it's prophesized that we're gonna have this reset, and there's people that think that they're just like trying to speed it along so that they can take advantage of it, right?
Yeah. Control it and then profit from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Problem solution kind of thing again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Can totally see that. We talked the other day about that's what we both think they'll do with the web eventually, which is shut it down and blame it on something and then say, okay, the only way you can get back on now is if you get your digital ID and then you're allowed back on the interweb.
Yeah. I mean, that could be the sun thing, right? They, like you said, that you think they're going to use it as like, oh, there's just too much air traffic and people need to be grounded, and this is why the haze is up there, and the sun is good, and we need the sun, and in order to fix our planet, and we need to
peons can't fly anymore.
Yeah.
They'll still fly to Davos though, I bet. And to multiple conferences around the world.
Well, there is a darker avenue that could be put out there for consideration as well, which is all these things that we've been talking about today. It is nefarious in nature, related to, again, a cataclysmic event that people are anticipating, where they want to reduce the population so there's not as many mouths to feed. And maybe a more humane way is to make everyone sick for a longer period of time. And then, or these are some of the things that we're thinking about. But, I've heard WEF refer to us humans as worthless eaters, many times. And it is a thought that's out there between the people that have compared to the people that have not. So again, I don't try and think about that too much because that's quite a depressing, rabbit hole to go down. But hey, I kind of sway. I like thinking about all different theories and approaches and, possibilities and whatnot. And I don't hang my hat 100% on really anything. But I like to, and I'd put that as a low probability. But I mean, yeah, maybe they know something and they're just trying to, have less mouths to feed when it hits.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I also think anything to make us fearful, they love as well. So that's something to be careful of, right? When you're looking into all this stuff, whether it's pole shift or the, mantle decoupling or chemtrails or anything, is be aware that they love when we're afraid of stuff.
Yeah. If the intent is to keep us in a lower frequency state of being, this is all could just be completely, fine. But they're like, well, this seems to freak people out, so let's just keep this narrative going. Like there's countless angles you could approach this with.
Yeah. I'm saying it more too, just to like learn. I think learning about it and talking about it is the way.
Yeah.
Then you're not, you know what I mean? It is what it is. I think there's so many things in this world, just talking about it and shedding light on it does something.
Yeah, well, this is one that's hard to bring up with, like, the normies, for lack of a better term, right? Like, do you have conversations with people that don't believe in this, and how do you approach those conversations and get them to start looking up in a more critical way?
I usually is like how I started the show, which is like, weather modification is a thing. They've been looking into this for a very long time. They've weaponized it in war, like a long time ago. How
Mhm.
much has the technology advanced then? They wouldn't openly talk about it. Like it's like UFO projects and reverse engineering on it. Like they're no one, you kind of know what's happening and it's accepted generally that there's something there, but still understood it's a topic we can't discuss or explore, right? So you can't dig too deep in there. But usually it's pointing out this is possible, this is being done now, here's the different ways it's being done, and then expanding from there of other possibilities that again I don't have 100% belief in, this or that or the other related to HAARP or geoengineering, but these are the different things I'm thinking about and researching and trying to form an ultimate opinion on. But I haven't reached there yet. I'm still
Yeah.
looking at other sources and what other people think, and before I can form that final opinion.
And have you noticed people being more receptive to it in the last, say, couple of years versus when you brought it up in 2020?
Generally, yes. Yep.
I have for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a good conversation at work the other day with two guys I work with who we'd never discussed it before because it was going on pretty heavy. And all three of us pointing at the sky and kind of seeing it. And then we had like a half an hour discussion about it. And I was kind of blown away that they were as into it and had been following for the same time period for the last 5 or 6 years. Like they've noticed things change. And
Yeah.
yeah, so hopefully more people discuss it and want to do something about it.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. Like, I don't, yeah. What do you do? What can you do? Right. Like, even if you know the planes that are doing it, what can you do? Shine a laser at them? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I did share some of my radar shots like online and social like early in 2022 just to get people's opinions on like what am I seeing here? Can anyone weigh in? And I got everything from anomalous propagation with the ground clutter. HAARP was something one said. Aliens was a comment response. It's aliens. It's always aliens, right?
Yeah.
And then there was another explanation for it was like bird migration, like a bunch of birds
Yeah,
leaving the
I remember
roost
you
at the
saying
same
that
time,
one.
which can form a circle on radar, but not to the effect that like it's definitely not
And
that. But
over every major city at the same time in the same place. It's like when the forest fires just magically all started in Quebec at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? When you were watching it on radar.
Yeah.
They weren't there, and then all of a sudden they're all there at the same time. Come on.
but I got everything
Birds.
from that to like you've got too much time on your hands, dude. Like, what are you doing? So like there was definitely people that were being comical, some people who had something to contribute, but the vast majority are like, what are you doing? It's like a glitch in the radar. Why are you overthinking it?
Yeah. Yeah.
What
But
about
then
you?
I'm like,
Do you
why
have
am I seeing
anyone
it
you talk
over
to?
and over and over and over again over a 2-year period? It was like crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I some of my family members that just don't really, spend time thinking about this stuff, like have brought it up to me. Where it's like, God, they're out there spraying again. Like when I hear when I hear someone go from not believing to saying the word spraying, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, you're catching on because it's undeniable. Like you can't look up and be like, there's nothing going on. This is totally normal. I remember what clouds looked like when I was a kid. And it's to the point now where they're actually going in. I don't know if you knew this, but they're going into like animated films and old movies and like putting chemtrails in the sky to
Wow.
normalize it. And people have done screenshots side by side of like, so my wife was watching. She went home and her sister loves Little Rascals, so they like put it on to have like a little nostalgic night. And she sent me a shot, and she's like, look at they edited chemtrails into the movie,
That's crazy.
and and again, it's like it's because if it's just normal, like we notice it because we know what the sun looked like when we were a
Yeah.
kid, yellow versus white sun. Now we know that the clouds used to be fluffy, and
Yeah.
now they're these hazy, ripply things that come out of the butts of planes. And but if you just introduce this to kids early on, that's just what they think the sky looks like.
That's
Because
what it always.
that's
We've
all they're
always been at
seeing.
war with East Asia, or right? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, yeah, you just wow.
yeah. It's it really is like to go to those lengths to normalize it
Yeah.
tells me that there's something nefarious about it. You don't usually try and cover your tracks if it's a positive thing. You just explain it away as a positive thing.
Mhm.
But Yeah.
And don't
I
normalize it going back in history.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be the next time you look at your Berenstain Bear book, there's
Yeah.
going to be chemtrails on it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's the whole Mandela. Yeah. Anyway, crazy. Sorry, what were we going to say, Rick?
I was just gonna say that's the interesting thing about it is, again, lots of people talking about it, questioning it, but the official narrative doesn't exist. It's just contrails, which
Yeah.
I don't buy. I've seen contrails. There's something going on there.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me, Mike, that you brought up again that the majority of the trails that you've been seeing are coming from military aircraft, right? Um,
Or
Canada,
unregistered.
yeah,
But
Non-commercial,
yeah.
like
unmarked,
Or
but
just you
these aren't
can't find
commercial
them.
planes that are flying over and they just have chemtrails and it's an increase in traffic or anything like that.
So I just wanted to say I didn't confirm they were military. They are not on Flight Tracker. They're hard to find, and some have been proven to be military because you can see some of the military flight paths in Canada, but not all. But some weren't. Some were just who knows. And I
Unmarked.
just assume they're military or black
Yeah.
ops or whatever, because who else would be doing that? Anyway, sorry.
No worries. No, I was just saying that.
Oh, cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't I don't have any other specific talking points that I know I have like a million tabs in this book, but you actually covered most of them without me even flipping to the page. So there you go.
I did want to say too, so there's because there's that Climate Tales movie.
Climate Trails.
Climate
It's
Trails
on Amazon. Yeah.
on Amazon, but you can't get it in Canada.
I
Because
didn't know
wanted
that.
to watch it. So, because I think you know, Rick, but for people who are listening or watching, we come up with our topic literally the week before and researched the week up to it. And that was part of my research was to watch that. And I went to watch it on Amazon and not available in Canada.
Huh.
Yeah. They
Interesting.
say it's don't look into anything because I read a few people who said when you look into why it's not available in Canada, don't be a conspiracy theorist. It's a licensing issue or something like that. But still, that's supposed to be a good movie to watch to explain this and what we can do. I just wish that I'd done that before I
A
started.
licensing issue. I can watch every Bollywood movie ever made. You can't watch Climate Trails,
Right?
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll definitely check that out. It's
Is
like a
there,
movie like Don't Look Up, right? It's just like, hey, you're not saying it's nothing to worry about. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
That movie had a very different ending, obviously, but
Yeah, well,
again,
I heard
I think it's good for people to be aware of their environment, surroundings, and question it, and you know, start recognizing patterns. How often does it happen? Is that normal? Like, those
Mhm.
are some of the rabbit holes I went down to at least confirm, like, this is not just contrails. This is something else. I wish I knew what it was, but I'd put that under the government's got a wraps on it and they don't want to talk about it. And until they do, we can talk about it. But,
Yeah.
you know, that's as far as we can get.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. You start recognizing patterns. You kind of have two options. You can either let it drive you crazy, or you can try and understand what these patterns are, so that it's not a shocker, and you're not, levels out the paranoia a little bit.
100%.
Yeah.
And yeah, it confirms. Well, and it's not, I think what you said too is continually I always try to keep an open mind about this. And if something comes up that explains what it is, and I might totally agree with it, but I think just looking into things makes you feel a lot better.
Yeah.
This makes me feel a lot better.
Well, and it's
Understanding.
exactly understanding what lens you're looking at things through. Because even when you said, like, like, oh, there's some positives to cloud seeding, like, my internal mind is like, nope, playing God's not good, man. Like, no. But I see your point, right? Like, I just see there's places that are drought stricken every year and can't grow crops, and people are starving. And if there's a way to localize just like normal rain that's going to allow them to live, then I don't see any net negative there.
Something else I've wanted to mention it before. You guys were talking about the jet stream too, and how HAARP can affect it. Because I've also read things that the jet stream could be ending or dying off, essentially, right? The Atlantic Gulf Stream and the jet stream.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to find a benefit in all this. Maybe it's them trying to keep it alive, to keep weather alive, right? Like maybe that current's already gone and that's why they have to do these things. Could be another possibility.
Either way, I would say, because I get your concern too of like, weather seeding, that's bad. weather, like it's something. Are you playing God, right? Are you tinkering with it? What's the impacts of it, right? I know
Mhm.
they're doing it locally and seeing some success, and but if you expand past that, like right, like say you terraform the Sahara Desert, you know, is that going to have an impact and cause droughts in South America? You know,
Mhm.
the dust particles aren't flying over the ocean anymore, which picks up the water molecules and, like, so that's, I think anything that's done with weather modification should be done again, very, very carefully with a lot of data, a lot of testing, start small, because there's no question that if you have an effect, if it rains here, then maybe it's not raining over there as well, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, you're
even this
taking it.
cloud
Yeah.
seeding in Western U.S. right now, is that going to have an impact at all on weather patterns for Eastern U.S.? I don't know. I think that's something to watch and be
And
interested to look
that's
into as well.
hurricane central on the East Coast, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
how's it going to affect those patterns?
With the cloud seeding, is there what comes down? Is it just H2O? Like I know you said it's silver nitrate they mix it with. Is there any
It's
contaminant that comes down with it, or is it just pure water? Or do you not
pure
know?
water, and there's it's silver iodide, I believe, which is in
Well,
very minuscule amounts. Like
yeah, yeah,
I've done some research. It's not really harmful. You can't really get into cellular membranes and whatnot. But yeah, no, it literally comes down as either water or snow. And they've been using it to rebuild glaciers and ice packs where places need more snow as well, cautioning too much snow
yeah,
could cause, avalanches, and then bringing local rainwater to areas. Weather modification's also been used by China to, alter the weather during the Olympics.
yeah.
Yep.
There's been articles I've read about that as well. And I even think there's a project in Alberta, which is again trying to mitigate the risk of hail. So making it rain before those clouds can get too high where they become hailstones and, have big damage on cars out in Alberta as well. So like
Yeah.
these things are being used to some, but again, you got to tiptoe in there because it does exist. Is it a good thing? Think it has some benefits, but you got to be careful because you're playing God a little bit, right? And
Yeah.
you know, one little kind of drop in the ocean can create a wave. Like how
Well, what
far
is that
away,
saying?
right?
Like the road to destruction is paved with good intentions,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Like, yeah.
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 And look at how many times humans playing God in different places has affected the whole ecosystem,
Oh,
right? Like,
monocrop agriculture is probably the largest
yeah,
example of that. We
yeah,
thought, oh, here's a way to feed everybody. And no, we're just destroying soil culture. We're like throwing tons of like carbon emissions into the air every time they till the land.
yeah.
It's literally destroying
And yeah, there are
planet.
other ways, hopefully, that people can get by without having to seed clouds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's the older ways of doing things like electroculture and stuff, right? That people seem to think that they can seed clouds locally using electroculture, and that's just wire wrapped around a stick, you
hmm
know? So,
better irrigation, crops that are more drought resistant, those sorts of things.
yeah,
Maybe don't grow things where they shouldn't be grown is another thing that happens a lot, especially
yeah.
here.
Which is, it's kind of funny because if you actually look at HARP, it's kind of built like that. Like if you were to build a gridded out electroculture thing, it would look very similar to HARP.
Yeah,
It's just charged by the earth instead of, you know, amplified and charged by
the ether.
yeah.
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 I do have an image of HARP if you want to show it for reference because it's pretty wild looking.
Yeah.
And this isn't the only one. I assume this was the only one on Earth. They're actually all over. They have separate, or I guess,
Where
substations
did
that are
I
kind
saw
of
it
all over the
here.
Earth.
This is
There
it,
it is.
right? Yeah.
Which
That's
that's like a
crazy.
huge area.
Yeah.
And that's near the Black Pyramid in Alaska too, isn't it? It's very close to
It's
it.
Anchorage, right? It's in Anchorage?
Outside of it, yeah.
Outside of Anchorage, yeah.
They
Y-
believe at one point the North Pole was located right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing too to mention about HARP, which I just from reading and whatever, is that it affects the northern hemisphere more than anywhere. I'm sure you got into that too, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't really affect climate, but it can in the northern hemisphere. So it could
Well, again,
melt
I think
polar
that's
ice
where it
caps.
can have an impact on the jet stream,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
more where kind of how it bends and whatnot, so it can
Mhm.
impact it.
And that's because of its interaction with the magnetosphere, which I guess because all the points intersect at the North Pole.
Yeah.
So they're a lot closer together. That's why it can affect it.
Well, and see, like it's then you get into ley lines and stuff like that, right? Like magnetic anomalies running from country to country, and if they were to say like build a version of this is just like a first iteration of this, but if they were to build one of these on every major ley line, you would create a network.
Well, they have them now. It's crazy when you see how they're linked. Like they have them all over the world, not exactly
this
like
extent,
this,
yeah.
but they have things that this can interact with.
Right.
So they're, you know what I mean? They're in constant contact. And when you look, it covers the whole world. It's crazy. And in a very not distinct, a very methodical, thought out grid pattern.
Yeah.
Is what it looks like. It's not willy nilly like our show. It's like they thought it out. You know what I mean? There was intent.
Yeah.
I mean, the radio waves are invisible, obviously, but if you could see them, I mean, I don't know how else I'd describe it. That's right. Like it.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
That's
mean
crazy.
looking.
For sure. For sure.
I guess, yeah. Next time I see those waves in the sky, maybe I should learn more about sine waves, try to figure out what frequency that wave would represent and see.
Well, and I've never even thought to pay attention to what direction the waves are moving in, and then like overlay that over over like a radar. You know what I mean? Like, do they follow that same pattern?
Like get sucked into wherever
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's a good thing to look at in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I did hear that HAARP has open houses every 2 years.
No way.
So maybe we'll have to go in go on a road trip and see if they can share anything with us.
Yeah. Yeah. You just walk in and piss your pants. That's
It just looks so out of place, eh? The picture of it, like in such a beautiful spot, and it just looks so out of place.
But it's all this future tech, right? You look at the data centers that they're throwing up everywhere, and it's very much like this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Pave paradise and throw up a parking lot, you know?
Right. Cool, man. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think this has been a great chat with you guys. You got me
man.
thinking about a bunch of things. I've got a movie to watch here, a couple books to read, a couple authors to look into, so I can keep going down the rabbit hole. But
is there anyone you can send our way as to who you would recommend that we pick up a book by, or
for the listeners to check out?
Yeah. I know that you don't have your own. You're not going to toot your own horn because you're just a guy talking about
I haven't
stuff.
been published yet. No.
But like, and you would
not
encourage
that
anyone
comes to mind right now, other than I would give a shout out for people interested, because I find it fascinating too, is like spaceweather.com or solarham.com as well. Of just when people think, oh, it's just the sun in the sky and what goes on and everything around kind of space weather, I find super fascinating. And given that that's kind of my one kind of caution that I'm always keeping an eye on is, okay, do I need to give Mike a call to pack the to-go bag today or not? Just something to keep an eye on is, again, the flux and the storming that's going on in our sun right now. It might be interesting to some viewers to check out.
What's your radar site of choice? You always tell me and I forget.
I usually use Windy.
That's
what I find to be the best radar app for what I'm looking for. But if I'm seeing something on Windy, I will check the Canada's radar system as well as the Weather Network to try and verify, like, is it just their app that's doing something or glitching out, or am I seeing this on multiple sources? So I'll try and look at a couple different sources for that. But Windy's my go-to.
Sweet. Cool. Yeah, I'll include links to all that stuff in the show notes. And anyways,
cool, man.
This has been a really great chat. You know your shit for sure. Right on.
I'll keep you posted if I see anything new or interesting. I'll add you to the feed with Mike of any strange radar anomalies or anything to watch out in the sun. I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, no, for sure. Another year of direct energy weapon attacks and stuff. Well, I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about next time. So we'll definitely do this again if you're down.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll start documenting some strange events, and we can just go, disaster by disaster.
Sick. Yeah, it works for me.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Rick.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for your
Right
time.
on. Thanks everyone for joining in this episode. Yeah, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Find us on Rumble. We're on Odyssey now.
Oh, nice.
So we're on everything. So
Sure.
give us a search, and I'm sure we'll talk to Rick again here at some point. And yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Have a great night, guys. From the land of the high seas and the tall trees, I'm Mike.
I'm Andrew.
That's Rick. Have a great night.
Take it easy.
Good night.